regular season of the athletic calendar year is upon us. We've already concluded week 1 of the high school football season, and we're looking forward to a jam-packed session throughout the fall season, heading into the winter with our winter athletics as well. Great stuff ahead for us. We'll talk football, we'll talk some soccer in the future, some volleyball throughout the fall calendar, and we will start now with just kind of recapping what's been happening over the last year. So as many as you know, we did this podcast last year, and some things popped up every now and again, as it does in the media industry, especially here in the sports world. And one thing led to another. We kind of had to say, okay, let's put this off to the side for now, but let's keep it in our back pocket. But guess what? As many of you guys love to see it, I'm back. I know it's not the greatest sight in the world, but hey, we're here for it. We're always here for it, and we're here to be here to help you guys and educate you guys on what's going on with stuff going across the Kanawha Valley. And this is the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook, and I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. First off, we'd like to thank our sponsors. First up is Mountain Care Network. Mountain Care Network was designed to increase accessibility to mental health services and decrease the stigma associated with mental health treatment in West Virginia. You can check them out by going to their website, mountaincarenetwork.com. That's mountaincarenetwork.com. And also, thank you to 5th Street Brewing over on 180 Summer Street. You can check them out with one of the area's top establishments for craft beer and food in the area. Over 12 beers on tap and some great food, including my favorite, the crab rangoon sandwich. I know it kind of sounds weird, but trust me, don't knock it until you try it. I'm just saying, I wouldn't lie to you guys. I'm just saying, I wouldn't lie. But without further ado, we got a jam-packed show here. In our next segment, we will be joined by the head football coach of the Spring Valley Timberwolves, Coach Brad Dingess. They are coming off a good victory over South Point, Ohio last week, and they will be taking on the Hurricane Redskins in week 2 in Putnam County this Friday night in what should be one of the top games involving area teams this weekend. We'll talk with him coming up in the next couple of minutes. So kind of a quick segment here. We're going to take a break and we'll come back, and we'll be down in Mason County live on location for our interview with the head coach of the Timberwolves, head coach Brad Dingess. You won't want to miss it here on the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook. Welcome back into the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook, the first podcast of the 2024 season. We are here with the head football coach of the Spring Valley Timberwolves, head coach Brad Dingess. Coach, welcome to the program.
I appreciate you having me.
Good win last Friday, huh, against South Point. Really good way to start the season.
Yeah. We hadn't started off with a win there in a couple years. Week 1, we were able to, a lot better than last year where we started out 0-4. But, we went out, played pretty well, have some mishaps on a couple things. But, first week, get the jitters out, go away with a win, especially on the road. It was good.
You've been around the game a long time. How much of a confidence boost does a week 1 win serve for you guys compared to a week 4, week 5, or week 6 win?
It's big. You always want to start off on the right foot, and we, you kind of don't want to get behind the chains so much, and try to fight your way out to try to make the playoffs. You get that good step forward going and get a little momentum going into week 2.
When you kind of look back on the game film from last Friday, what really worked well for you guys to leave with the W?
We controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Kind of stopped the run on defense. They weren't able to run the football. And, we established the run pretty early, was able to hit some key passes. And, we were clicking pretty good on offense, especially there in the first half. Pretty pleasing. We looked pretty smooth for a week 1 game.
You talk about winning that line of scrimmage. I mean, obviously in these first couple of weeks you want to look at different things, but I know whenever you and I have talked, that line of scrimmage is really vital, a really vital piece for this team to be successful this year. You mentioned the run game during the preseason, but were you pleased with how you guys played up front on both sides of the football?
Yeah, we were just so young last year. We played 3 or 4 sophomores that were really green, didn't have very much Friday night experience, and we looked a little more grown up Friday night, and the kind of nerves weren't there, the big eyes and the greenness wasn't. So we went out. Our kids grew a little bit. They got stronger. They looked like varsity football players instead of some guys we were trying to piece together.
Take me back to last season. You mentioned the 0-4 start. You guys were able to sneak into the playoffs. What's different about this team at this point this season compared to where you guys were a year ago?
We were still going over just basic rules of blocking, and we were trying to find ourselves. I mean, we really didn't have anybody back except for Jalyn that had really carried the ball or had the ball in their hand when the game was on the line from the year before. So, not only were we trying to find ourselves up front, but on the defensive side of the ball and, our playmakers. We had 2 scrimmages that really didn't go our way. We had a lot of mishaps, fumbles, and when you're counting plays and you're fumbling it and stuff like that, you're not getting really good looks at kids. And we felt like we had a lot of kids that were about equal, so we didn't have a whole lot that were getting a whole lot of snaps. It was a little different this year. We kind of knew what we had coming in, kind of got in a rhythm a whole lot earlier in camp, and took advantage of it.
What do you like about this team thus far?
It's a great locker room, good team chemistry. They're not selfish kids. It doesn't really matter who touches the ball or who makes the play. It's kind of refreshing. But they play good as a unit. When your kids are hanging out with each other outside of football and doing stuff like that, eating together in the cafeteria and just they're friends and all that stuff. It's what I really like. And they challenge each other. I mean, we've had some really good practices. They say iron sharpens iron, and it's kind of what we're doing. I mean, our kids get after it in practice, but it's just all to make each other better.
You kind of mentioned a lot of good things about what makes a good team, and you mentioned the camaraderie that you guys have, them being able to challenge one another. Does that kind of alleviate some of that pressure on you as a coach to kind of just give that to your leaders and be like, hey, if you want to guide this team, if this team wants to be successful, these are the things you guys have to do? Am I kind of right when I say that with you all?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of police themselves. And we've had teams in the past where, we've had to get on them or make corrections or kind of things, but they kind of police themselves. We've got really good senior leadership. The really good teams we've had in the past did that. So I'm hoping that's what is kind of to come with this group.
We'll talk about some of those guys here very shortly, about some of the past Timberwolves now making a name for themselves in college and in the NFL, but really big week 2 test. You guys play the Hurricane Redskins in Putnam County. Kind of walk me through, what are you seeing from Hurricane?
Athletes all over the field. They're really good up front on both sides of the ball, physical. They got a great quarterback in Noah that kind of he's able to run the ball and distribute the ball to those playmakers. And they really, the game last week with Huntington, they kind of limited Huntington a little bit on their big plays. They made Huntington drive a little bit, but those were 2 big powerhouse programs that were going there. But they're really good on special teams. They're dangerous as far as the return guys. They got a kicker who can put it in the end zone. Their coverages are really well, so they really don't have any weak spots. We're just going to have to play really, really well to play with them.
You mentioned Noah, but also you got to look at the wideout position in Tyshawn Dews, who's going to be playing collegiate football. What is he going to have to take for you guys defensively to kind of slow down that 1-2 combo?
We've got to do a good job of stopping the run first off. Last year when we played, we got up on them early, but really struggled on tackling. We didn't tackle very well, and I think that had a lot to do with us being so young. We've put a big emphasis on that, so we've got to be able to, slow them down running. We've got to be able to tackle, especially in space, and hopefully keep it close. And if we can get ahead, that'd be great. Try to put them in spots to where they're more predictable.
You talk about starting fast, and especially whenever you play a team like Hurricane, starting fast is always big, and you mentioned the tackling side of things as well. Do you think the starting fast is going to have to be a really big point of emphasis for you guys whenever you guys do play a dangerous team like Hurricane?
No, I mean, you've got to stop the big play. You don't want to get behind at least 2 scores with them. You've got to keep it a 1-score ball game. We've got to be able to establish the run. That's a big thing. Chew up some clock. They like to play fast. They get up and down the field, no huddle. You got to slow that down a little bit. Hopefully, they don't jump up on you.
controlling the emotions. Obviously, it's going to be a really big test for you guys, but controlling the emotions whenever you do play a team like Hurricane. What's your message to your guys in regards to controlling those emotions?
This is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
Regardless of what happens early in the season, every game counts the same. But we got to really concentrate on us. Our big thing this week is stressing on, finding those mistakes that we had week one and correcting those, and being the best football player that we can be, master our craft. And if we go out and do those things and don't play stupid football and lose our heads, go out there and compete and keep it close in the fourth quarter, and you never know what'll happen.
Take me a little bit further now down into the season. Let's go to the next couple of weeks. I mean, obviously you want to focus on Hurricane, but these next couple of weeks, what do you want to see from your team in regards to consistency leading into the middle of the season?
You want to just keep getting better. You want to stay fluid. You don't want to be jumping around, having to change a bunch of things, changing a bunch of personnel. And I thought we did a pretty good job last week. We've got a lot of kids we feel like we can play on Friday night. Get into a nice rotation, trying to keep kids fresh and stay healthy, and limit your mistakes and kind of get in a groove.
Let's talk about a couple of your guys. We'll start with Jalyn, as you mentioned earlier. He's back for another year, had a really dynamic year last year, was effective in a lot of different areas for you guys. What have you liked differently about him this time around?
He's the man. I mean, he's a senior now. He's taking more of that leadership role. I think when you play us, you kind of got to know where he's at all times. But he's grown up. It's been awesome to see him from when he was a sophomore to where he is now. He's more of a complete football player, and I think he's got a little bit more help than what he's had in the past, to where he's not having to do everything like he had kind of on his own.
What's the next step in his game, or the next evolution of his game that you really want to see him take before you guys end your season this year?
I've seen him. He's taken over ball games before, so that wouldn't shock me if at any point in time he just completely takes over a ball game before the end of the year. But he's a quiet kid. That with him a little bit more vocal would be. It's getting better, and just being that guy, that rah-rah guy that those kids follow.
Give me a guy or two that you've been really pleased with their growth throughout not only fall camp but through the season thus far.
Really all of them. But Liam McGuire, our quarterback, he went from splitting reps a little bit more. He got more of the reps in the second half of the season, but he grew a couple of inches, put on about 20 good pounds. He just seems a whole lot more confident. And really our O-line and D-line as a unit is playing with a whole lot more confidence. They feel like they can win those battles, and they come out with a smile on their face when contact happens.
What's a position group that you still want to see growth in? I mean, obviously you can say a lot of different areas, but what's one group that you've seen that you just want to continue to see strides in?
That big skill group. I mean, we've always really had those big skill guys, the big middle linebacker, tight end, fullback type guys, and there's not that 220-pound guy that we've had. It's kind of weird, but we've got some guys that we feel good in those spots. But it's a group. It's more of a collective group, more than just one guy, like the Cody Shies or the Owen Porters or the Elijah Wellman type kids. So see those guys grow a little bit would be I look forward to that.
Let's talk about some of your guys that have obviously had a stellar career here at Spring Valley. Now they're on the bigger and better things. We'll start with Wyatt Milam, one of the best offensive linemen, maybe in the Big 12 and in the country for that matter, at WVU. What have you really liked seeing about his growth since being up in Morgantown?
He's nothing surprises me out of that kid. He's a hard worker, great leader, takes pride in what he does. He's a great teammate, and he's an even better person than he is a football player. So, he's earned everything that he's gotten, and it's exciting to watch him. I mean, he's got that ruthless attitude a little bit with him, and he did every play. He just doesn't try to block you; he tries to hurt you. So and that's kind of stuff you can't teach. And and he's probably got a smile on his face when he's doing it. So he's an exciting kid to watch.
I could probably assume that as a coach is you always get that feeling, or there's always that moment whenever you know that a specific player is going to be a really good player down the line. Did you ever have that moment with Wyatt?
Probably the first play in his first scrimmage when he took we actually had him at tight end then. And,
had him at tight end?
Yeah, he took the 5 technique and drove him all the way across the field and pancaked him and got back to the huddle and just was smiling. He doesn't say a whole lot, but I mean, just the way he practices, that's the best thing about like him and some of those other guys. When your best players are your best practice players, that's when you know you got something special.
Doug Nestor, Owen Porter, 2 guys that got picked up by the Vikings. Now Doug is with the Pittsburgh Steelers now on their practice squad. Those 2, obviously, let's talk about Doug first. Another lineman that's come through the system. What's impressed you about Doug's growth from when he left Spring Valley, went to Virginia Tech, then went to WVU, now in the NFL? What have you liked about his story?
I mean, just coming in, I've only had two freshmen ever start for me on Friday night, and he's one of them. So, he was special. But just how grown up he's been, mature with the whole process. He's committed to Ohio State, and stuff happened with Coach Meyer, and then ended up going to Virginia Tech, and ended up back home at WU. So, that's tough. It's tough to to go up to Minnesota, go through the whole preseason, and then end up going to another team. He's just going to have a couple practices in. But their injury, the injury bugs kind of hit him on the O-line, so it wouldn't shock me to see him on that active roster. But he's a worker. He's a blue-collar guy that's just going to keep grinding, and at some point in time, I know you're going to see him out there on Sunday playing, starting.
Owen, another guy that was really good for you guys. I know you showed me a picture not so long ago of him kind of standing on the sideline in the playoff game against Midland, but that competitive nature, I mean, obviously a lot of people saw that whenever he was in Huntington playing for Marshall and Coach Huff, but that competitive fire is really rare nowadays, it seems like, with a lot of guys. But talk about that competitiveness that Owen had each day.
He's an alpha guy. I mean, he'd take over the locker room, the practice, whatever team he's on. I guarantee you he's that guy in the locker room. Very intense. You're not going to find more of a linebacker, D-end, edge rusher type mentality guy that every team wants to have. And I think he's got a couple tryouts this week with another couple teams, but I think he'll end up finding a spot. I mean, if I was going to start a team, that's the type of guy that you want to have.
A couple more for you. Let's kind of talk about you a little bit as a coach. Over 15 years of coaching now here at Spring Valley. What's different about you this season compared to where you were your first season?
I was 28 when so I didn't know a whole lot. But I've been blessed to have a lot of really good football players and really good coaching staffs. And I've got Frank Arthur, my D coordinator. He's been with me. I think we started coaching in 2000 together here on the freshman team. So I've got Brian Spry and Bo Miller. They've been with me since 2008. And, the rest of those guys now, I got a bunch of young guys that played for me that have come back, and, the program really benefited them. And, they want to come back and give back to it. And they're doing a great job. It's not anything I've done. It's a collective group. There's a lot of successful coaches out there that, has to go through some down years and stuff like that, and I really haven't. Our down years have been 6-4, and we still made the playoffs every year that we've been here. So we've been lucky with that.
And finally, you mentioned the former player side of things on your coaching staff. Do you kind of get those old man moments whenever you kind of get players back on your team and now they're coaching alongside you? Do you kind of have those moments? And what's that like for you to be able to do that?
It's awesome just to kind of sit back and watch those guys get after it. I don't have near as much juice as what I used to have.
Your players may say differently though.
Yeah, just even with like music and the way they do things, and I don't. I'm not bent over on a lot of those things and get tore up. I know a couple of those guys say, Coach, if we'd have done that crap when we played for you, you'd have lost your mind. And I was like, well, color of socks or color of cleats really don't matter as much anymore, So, I've kind of delegated more than what I used to, but it's a fraternity regardless, and that's what high school football is all about, is just playing with your buddies, coaching with your friends, your brothers, and regardless where you go at any program, you got a connection if somebody played high school football. And I think for the most part, all coaches and all that stuff's in it for the same reason: try to better these guys, make them good, productive citizens, good young men, good husbands, good fathers, and you win some games and make some memories, and that's what it's all about.
Well, Coach, good luck to you this week. Good luck against the Redskins, and good luck the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That'll do it for this segment. Up next, we'll go through Week 1 picks, and we'll talk about who I got in Week 2 of the high school and college football season. Final segment here of the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Coach Brad Dingess for joining us in our second segment. This program today is brought to you by Mountain Care Network. Mountain Care Network was designed to increase accessibility to mental health services and decrease the stigma associated with mental health treatment in West Virginia. Check out their website by going to mountaincarenetwork.com. That's mountaincarenetwork.com. And the fine folks over at 5th Street Brewing over on 180 Summer Street here in Charleston. Go check them out. 12 beers on tap and a great and wide range of food selections for you when you go into their establishment, including my favorite, the crab rangoon sandwich. So special thanks to the two of them, as we will continue to be partners with them throughout this fall season. And one of the many things that we're doing new here at HD Media is we're doing staff picks. As many as you know, and as I know, staff picks was a really big deal for the longest time, and it went away a couple of years ago, and we brought it back. We have about 7 people, including we have 8 people, I should say. 8 people, including Charlie West being one of them. Now you're thinking, who's Charlie West? Well, a lot of people may know, especially the older demographic may know who Charlie West is. And Charlie West, if you look at the bottom portion of the newspaper, there always seems to be a portion that's dedicated to Charlie West and what he's thinking for the day, what's going through his head, what do you think the day is going to be like. So we incorporated Charlie West, and last week we picked around 9 to 10 games, 5 college, 5 high school football games, and lots of great action last week. One of the many games was that Herbert Hoover Independence game, as Hoover will take on Winfield at Husky Stadium on Friday. But that was just one of the many picks that we had, as you could see up on your screen. A lot of great picks happened last week, a wide variety of games as well. We went to, like I mentioned, Herbert Hoover and Independence, Man and Logan, Mingo Central Tug Valley, Hurricane and Huntington, South Charleston and Ripley. Those are just the 5 high school games that we chose. And as you can tell, there were some wins, there were some losses. As you can tell in that first college game in my column, you can see that WVU did not beat Penn State. We'll not talk about that game because as a Mountaineer fan, as a Mountaineer alum, it just wasn't the greatest outing by the Mountaineers. But we're not here to talk college football. We're here to talk local sports. And for Week 2 is right around the corner. We'll start this upcoming Friday with, again, a loaded schedule in regards to high school football. And arguably one of the top games, not only involving a local team, but also from a statewide perspective, is what's happening up in the Eastern Panhandle Friday evening between the Huntington Highlanders as they travel to the Eastern Panhandle to take on the Martinsburg Bulldogs. It's a rematch of last year's state semifinals game as Martinsburg ran away from Huntington. And also, these two teams met 2 years ago in the Class AAA state finals in Wheeling, and Huntington claimed the state title victory over the Bulldogs. So it's a rematch. They've split the last 2 meetings. Now they're back for a third meeting on Friday night. So that will be a game of high interest involving teams across not only the Kanawha Valley, but in West Virginia in total. So for that pick, I kind of went a different route. I've seen Martinsburg play. I've seen Huntington before. I kind of like what Huntington has. I really like the dynamic trio that they have with Avante Crawford at quarterback, Zod Jackson at running back, and Tavion Wilson, who's just a Swiss Army knife. He plays tight end. He punts some. He's on special teams. He's everywhere. He's active. He actually had the game-saving block on a field goal attempt by Hurricane last Friday to prevent the game being tied at 38 and going into overtime. So I really like Huntington in this matchup against the Bulldogs. Give me Huntington to escape the Eastern Panhandle with the victory. As I mentioned, and as we talked in the last segment with Spring Valley coach Brad Dingess, they are taking on the Hurricane Redskins on Friday night. We will be there for that game. That should be another entertaining game. And I like Spring Valley. I really do. I like what they have up front, both offensively and defensively. That's what Coach Brad Dingess was mentioning to us as well. I'm a really big fan of Jalyn Abercrombie. I think he's a guy that's used in a lot of different ways and can be useful in those ways. So I really like Spring Valley. Don't get me wrong. Hurricane is a fantastic team with Coach Mays as the head coach. Noah Velatami back at quarterback. Tyshawn Dews out in the wideout position. I really like that team, but I think Spring Valley gets it. And if I'm wrong, it should be a great game regardless, as it was last year in Hurricane. Winfield and Herbert Hoover. Now, this was a game I wrestled with. I wrestled with this one a lot just because Herbert Hoover has a great team back with Dane Hatfield as the quarterback, Blake Fisher at running back. There's some holes, there's some questions still. I talked to Joey Fields some. He still likes what he has from his young group. Winfield, same situation. Both teams are still trying to figure out a couple of questions. Winfield returns quarterback Eastern Pinkerton to their team. Chris Radcliffe is back in the running back position. Toby Lockery, another guy that gets moved around a lot like Tavion Wilson. I give the edge to Winfield. I think this is a really, really entertaining game. I'll actually be at that game Friday evening. I like Winfield in this matchup. Give me the Generals. Not saying this from an alum perspective, just saying it more from an X's and O's and just a personnel perspective. So I really like Winfield in this game. Scott and Wayne. Now, people may think, what happened to Scott? Well, they lost quarterback Matt Fry, but they do return one of the best, and what my opinion, one of the better running backs, not only in Southern West Virginia, but also in the state, in Carson Brinegar. I really like what they have. Wayne's very talented under Coach Tommy Harmon, who's entering his 28th year. I like Scott in this game. Give me the Skyhawks. Ironton, Ohio, taking on Cabell Midland inside Joe C. Edwards Stadium. Cabell Midland, another one of those teams that has some question marks with them. Should be a really good game. There was a really big crowd last year inside the Joan. I like Ironton in this game. Give me Ironton, Ohio. And then for college, I like WVU over Albany easily. Bounce back win for them. Marshall, Virginia Tech. I like Virginia Tech. I think there's still some question marks with Virginia Tech, but I like quarterback Kyron Drones to kind of lead the way and get that bounce back win against Marshall following the week 1 loss to Vanderbilt. Ohio State, I like what they got going on right now. A lot of mojo. I really like the Buckeyes this week. Texas and Michigan, give me the Longhorns. Quinn Ewers, arguably one of the best, if not the best quarterback in college football right now. And in North Carolina State, Tennessee, road game for the Volunteers. I really like the Volunteers to go into North Carolina and beat the Wolfpack on the road. So those are my picks for week 2. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? Check back in with me and see what you think. Who do you like in these games? You can always tag me on Twitter at Taylor Kennedy. Well, Taylor_Kennedy 7. And that's where you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook as well. But speaking of socials, go check us out on Twitter, the Gazette Mail's Twitter page at GAZ Mail Sports. That's Gaz Mail Sports, GAZ Mail Sports. And our brand new Facebook page, just go look up HD Media Sports, where you can find all of our content across all of our newspaper platforms here in West Virginia. And you can do that as well. Go to our website, WVGazette.com, where you can find all of our training camp confidential videos, along with our 40-yard dash video, which this week we will be featuring the head coach of the Huntington Highlanders, head coach Billy Seals. So that'll do it for this week's edition of the Kanawha Valley Sports Notebook, and I will see you all next week for the next installment of this podcast. Thank you all for watching and listening, and I'll see you all next week.